reporting to you live from Scotland,
bringing you a special edition of CNN
to give you the answers that
you deserve!
What's your question?
Hello? I was wondering, what is the jealousy and guilt that Macbeth felt for Banquo? Hello? Is this thing on?
Why, thank you. Not only this, but once the crime proceeded, the murderers managed to kill Banquo, but Fleance escaped. Most loyal, sir, Fleance escaped. Macbeth was angered as just the death of Banquo and not his son wasn't good enough. As Macbeth starts to hallucinate and sees Banquo's ghost at the feast, it shows that Macbeth has a guilty conscience. Prithese, there, behold, look, lo, how say you? What care I, if thou canst not speak too? This demonstrates that Macbeth truly does feel guilty and responsible for Banquo's death. Looking back and comparing Macbeth's reaction to King Duncan and Banquo's death, one can infer that he truly was close friends with Banquo. While being more scared in regards to King Duncan's death, Macbeth is bringing Banquo's death upon himself, making him go crazy and fantasize. With this in mind, it shows how Macbeth acts without thinking. Macbeth keeps his spirits high until he crashes. From previous experiences, Macbeth knows about himself that after murder he feels guilty. Therefore, it is ironic that he was capable of being responsible of a friend Banquo's death. One could have assumed that Macbeth was going to take Banquo's death negatively, as he did.
Hi. What's your question?
I wanted to know why Macbeth and Banquo became friends and what led them to their hatred towards each other.
Good question. Let's go to the experts.
Well, it's believed by most that Macbeth and Banquo most likely became friends during their time together in King Duncan's army. They were both generals, and so it can be assumed both shared several similar characteristics. They were brave, courageous, and in the start, great leaders. Yes, even Macbeth at some point was a great leader.
In fact, we have records of a soldier stating this about Macbeth. For brave Macbeth, while he deserves that name, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, clearly the soldier's words do not reflect the people's opinion of Macbeth today. Back to you.
Right you are, May! Going back to the question, another instance when Macbeth and Banquo's friendship was displayed was when Banquo, despite knowing that Macbeth had murdered King Duncan, said nothing. This was a secret which Banquo unfortunately took to the grave. Although, due to the fact that Banquo ignored his morals and values in order to protect his friend, showed that he valued his friendship with Macbeth very highly. Macbeth, however, did not hold their friendship with the same regards. This is one of the most prominent issues which led to the eventual downfall of their friendship. Banquo had been told by the witches that he was lesser than Macbeth and greater. Not so happy, yet much happier. Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo, Banquo and Macbeth. Personally, I think that the witches had a lot to do with turning Macbeth against Banquo. They intentionally told him that Banquo would ultimately end up happier than him, and that even though Macbeth would be king, Banquo shall be the one whose descendants will be kings. This invoked a lot of jealousy within Macbeth. This jealousy was the very spark needed to ignite the hatred for Banquo in Macbeth's minds.
What do you have to say about this?
So sad to think that two friends who were practically inseparable ripped apart by their insecurities.
Quite tragic indeed. Macbeth, due to his mental instability, was convinced that Banquo, his own friend, had become the biggest threat to him and his throne. There was no one but he, whose being I do fear. And under him my genius is rebuked, as it is said Mark Antony's was by Caesar. He chid the sisters, when first they put the name of king upon me, and bade them speak to him. Then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown. His statement reiterates his fear of Banquo in the first line, clearly displaying that now that he has identified his threat, Macbeth must work towards eliminating it. Banquo's genius rebukes Macbeth's as Mark Antony's to Caesar. What a great allusion indeed. Used to state how history has repeated itself once with Macbeth and shall continue to do so with the progress of time. And so, to finally conclude the answer to your question, that is how the relationship of Banquo and Macbeth evolved from friendship to a hatred, a hate which took the life of not only Banquo, but several others who followed him.
Thank you to Bonnie, and now to Andrea. What is your question?
Well, Banquo and Macbeth have experienced a major switch in their relationship from a friendship to bitter enemies. Was it their differences in personalities and ambition that ruined their friendship?
Great question. Off to the experts.
Rightio you are, Andrea. Banquo hesitates when the witches say the prophecies because he doesn't have full faith that what they are saying is the truth. Instead, he's very distrustful of the witches and doesn't want to believe them because he's unsure whether they're telling the truth or not. His skeptical side is shown when he asks, "Are ye fantastical, or is that indeed outwardly ye shows?" And also when he wonders whether what can the devil speak true, as he's trying to figure out whether to take what the witches say as the truth, or if it's just a sick joke being played Macbeth and himself. These questions tell us Banquo is cautious. Macbeth may dive right into evil without stopping first, but Banquo takes his time. Even when he wants to know his future, he does it cautiously, saying that he neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate.
Although, on the other hand, Macbeth believes them from the get-go, and naively thinks that what they're saying is true and that the prophecies will become reality, and he puts a lot of his own trust behind both sets of prophecies. He trusts that he will become king and was willing to force his way there. Two truths are told, is what he said, because the first two of the witches' prophecies worked out, so the third, that he should become king, should too, whether Malcolm was named the heir or not, and he was willing to fight his way there.
Banquo is cautious by comparison to Macbeth because he says, "If you can look into the seeds of time and say which grains will grow and which will not, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate." Another quote that proves his cautiousness when it came to the witches' prophecies. He warned Macbeth that the instruments of darkness tell his truth when is with that honest trifles to betray in deeper consequences.
On the other hand, Macbeth is blinded by ambition and this want to become king, and he loses sight of his morals. "My head is full of plans that I must put into action before I can think about them." He says this and instead asks for the witches to hear more about his future. "Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more." This shows that he is naive and desperate for power because he doesn't think of the consequences or possibilities of the witches being untruthful, but instead he wants to know more about his seemingly bright future.
This is something Banquo would not and did not do. He, unlike Macbeth, has morals shown since he was loyal to the king despite the fact that he wanted his children and himself too. He didn't want to compromise his character, morals, or loyalty just because he wanted the prophecy to come true, which shows the strong morals and character he possessed. He didn't force the prophecy like Macbeth did, and instead let it fall into place peacefully, showing self-control, regardlessness of his twisted thoughts. A quote of this is, "Merciful powers restrain me in the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose." He says this because his thoughts, just like Macbeth, wandered to a dark place, where he thought of murdering the king to make his prophecy come true like Macbeth did. Although, because Banquo's thoughts remained as harmless thoughts, it showed the differences in self-control of his character, greed, and comparison to Macbeth.
Macbeth reacts oppositely. He goes straight into planning the murder of Duncan. He has no suspicion that the witches are basically leading him into his own self-destruction. All he knows is that he will become king. Perhaps he was thinking about killing Duncan before the witches even presented this prophecy to him, but perhaps not. But Macbeth started thinking about how he was going to become king, fueling the turn point of the play. Macbeth loses these morals and character as he murders the king and in turn several other people, including his former good friend, Banquo.
Banquo said so, "I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and alliance clear. I shall be counselled." This shows his want to be loyal. Banquo also becomes skeptical of Macbeth. "Thou hast it now, King Cawdor, Glamis, all the weird woman promised, as I fear thou playest most foully for it."
And to that dauntless temper of his mind, he hath the wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. There is none but he, who being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked. In other words, Macbeth admires Banquo's bravery, and fears his wisdom. He's not just the muscle of the operation. In fact, he's wise enough to know that something shady is going on. After Duncan's murder, he's the one to tell the nobles to meet and question this most bloody piece of work. And he's the first one to suspect that Macbeth placed most foully for the crown. This shows that Macbeth
knew he was a lesser ruler than Banquo and feels threatened by it. It also shows his own insecurity about himself as a ruler, and he becomes spiteful and orders Banquo murdered, turning him into an even worse friend.
And that's it for our special, folks.
We went on the streets, we got you some answers, and
If we don't see you tomorrow,
good
morning, good evening, and good night.